Hey y'all, it's me, Miss Phil. And I'm sitting here eating some ice cream because I love ice cream. It's literally my favorite food. So it got me thinking, what's in here? And why do we need food? And what's in food that makes us the way we are? So I think this week we're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about nutrition. I just wish I didn't have to put my ice cream down to do it. One last bite. I actually took 4 more. So now that my ice cream is put away and it's no longer a distraction, we can move on to week 4, day 2 of our lesson. What's nutrition, you ask? I'm glad you did. Let me tell you. Nutrition is how we consume, which means eat and take in, food and how we use it. And while there's a lot of things that we can think about when we think about our nutrition, we're going to focus on a couple of other things today that are super important. And they are nutrients. What are nutrients? Well, they're just simply little substances in our food and our drinks that help our body to move and to grow and to be healthy. Did you know that there are 2 major types of nutrients? They are macro and micro. Now we're going to talk about some macronutrients for a couple minutes. So here they are, our macronutrients, which are the bigger ones. And they are in 3 different categories. They're carbohydrates, and we just call them carbs for short because it's so much easier. Proteins, and also fats. We have good fats, but then there's also the not so good fats. Here are some quick facts about our macronutrients known as the carbs. Number 1, they are made up of lots of sugars and starches and fiber. And they can be considered both simple carbs or complex carbs. We're not going to get into a lot of that today, but it's something good to know in the back of your head. Also, we find these in a lot of foods that mostly come from plants and plant products, like fruit, strawberries, and grains, pasta, and vegetables. Like this avocado. Now I know, some people are going to say, Miss Phil, that's a fruit. But you know what? It's still a carb. Let's move on to our next macronutrient, shall we? It's called proteins. So proteins are super awesome. They actually help our body a lot. We get to build and repair our body tissues with them. So they're like little builders all the time in our body, which is really good. And those are used with amino acids. And those are other things in our body that help create the little cells that make up our body tissue. But there are 20 essential, that means we need them. Essential means necessary. There are 20 essential amino acids in our body, but our body can only make 11. So that means that we need help from something else, which is our food, to give us the other 9. Foods that have proteins can either be called a complete protein or an incomplete protein. If it's called a complete protein, that means it has all those 9 essential amino acids that we need in that one food. For example, an egg. Another thing is that incomplete proteins are other foods that don't have all the 9 other amino acids that we need. So we might need to eat a few different incomplete proteins in order to get all 9 of those amino acids that we need. It's also important to know that our macronutrients, the proteins, come from both animal products and plants. So animal products would be like chicken or milk or yogurt, but also plant-based things like peanuts and peanut butter. Now let's talk for a few seconds about the macronutrient that makes a lot of things taste pretty good, but it doesn't always mean it's good for us. That's right. We're talking about the fats. Now if you remember in the gym, there are yellow spots on the ground that are called my what? That's right, my good fat spots, because not all fats are bad. But let's talk about why we do need fat in our diet and in our life and in our body, because it is important. That's why it's one of the macronutrients. So let's get into it. Number 1, macronutrient of fat helps us to use vitamins. That's right. If we didn't have fat in our body, we wouldn't be able to use those vitamins. Another one is that it protects our organs. Another thing is that it helps maintain our body heat. So that means that we can stay warmer if we have a healthy amount of fat in our system. There are 3 different types of fats that we might find. The first one is saturated fat. It is a solid. Butter is a saturated fat. It holds its shape and form at room temperature. Our second type that we might find is unsaturated fat. Here's some olive oil. This is an unsaturated fat because it's a liquid at room temperature. And there's a third type of fat. It's called a trans fatty acid fat. And all that means is that there was a liquid fat, so like an unsaturated fat, because that's liquid, and then people and chemicals turned it back into a solid, or it turned it back into a saturated fat. Well, we've talked about macronutrients. Now it's time to learn about micronutrients, the little micro ones. They're small. So we've got in our little micro category, vitamins, minerals, and water. So when it comes to vitamins, they're really important because they help our body in lots of different ways. But there's two different categories of vitamins. There's fat-soluble vitamins and water-soluble vitamins. And all that means is that fat-soluble vitamins need fat to help be broken down and used in our body. And water-soluble vitamins need water in our body to help be broken down and used. And then we've got our micronutrient called the minerals. And in that, there are two different categories here too. We've got macro minerals, calcium and magnesium and potassium and sodium, all the ums, as well as trace minerals, iron and copper and zinc. I zinc you know what I'm about to say, that they're all important. Because they are. All these things, all these minerals, whether they're macro or trace, they're all important for our body to function. And then, of course, there's water, which is super important to have because your body's made up of a lot of water and it keeps needing more and more water all the time so that your body can function. So make sure that you're drinking plenty of water during your day. Not this much, but enough. You might ask me, Miss Phil, how do I know if I'm getting all my macro and micronutrients in my body? Well, tomorrow on day 3 of our week 4 lessons, I'll tell you. But for now, you know what time it is, guys? That's right. It's time for Miss Phil to have some more ice cream. So I'm going to have to open this little friend up and enjoy a little bit more of this splendid, delicious, wonderful, what's it? Oh, it's peanut butter fudge. Don't mind if I do. So, until tomorrow, try to eat a lot of good food. Make sure you come back for another lesson on how to get those macro and micronutrients into your body. All right. Bye.